Hi everybody, in this video I'm going to talk about how the UK responded to the Great Depression. And we saw in the last video that the Great Depression started in the US in 1929 with the Wall Street crash, and it essentially caused a recession globally because of the interconnectedness of many countries, which wasn't as great as it is today, but still it had an impact across the world. And just like the US, in the UK, the policy response was through using fiscal policy, so government spending and taxation changes, and also monetary policy to do with the rate of interest and the money supply. In the UK, at the time, there was a really big focus on there being a budget balance. And this was just the same as in the US. So in both countries, balancing the budget was very important. So this meant that they wanted government spending to be equal to the amount that they were collecting in tax revenue. And as you can imagine, when the Great Depression started, it meant that the government had to spend a lot more on unemployment benefits. So there was a big increase in unemployment spending by the government. And on top of this, tax revenue was falling. Because we know that in the Great Depression, we had a decrease in consumption, a decrease in investment, possibly a decrease in exports because countries abroad, the people there didn't have as much money to be spending on buying imports that were coming from the UK. And overall, this all led to a decrease in aggregate demand. So people were spending less money, businesses were spending less money, tax revenues were going down. So what they decided to do in the 1931 budget and onwards, they wanted to balance this budget deficit. They wanted to get rid of the budget deficit. They wanted a budget balance. So to do this, they cut government spending for public sector pay. So people who were working for the government started being paid less. Also, they cut unemployment benefits. So people received less money from that. And on the tax side, they increased income tax. And they increased this from 22.5 to 25%. These three things, as you can imagine, all led to a decrease in consumption, a decrease in investment, and overall, aggregate demand fell significantly. So really, they had big problems caused by the policy that they were using. This made everything much worse. So this didn't help. Everything became much worse because of the policy they'd chosen. As aggregate demand decreased, you can see on the diagram here, this is what will have happened. Less aggregate demand and therefore even lower output. So this is negative economic growth as real output falls. And it was deflationary because it caused a sustained decrease in the average price level. So none of this helped. And on the other side, luckily, with the monetary policy, they did something different. In 1931, the UK left the gold standard. You don't need to know what this is about, but this was about our currency and how it was valued. When we left the gold standard, this caused the value of the pound to fall. And when this happened, this meant that exports went up because now our exports were relatively cheaper because the pound was weaker. At the same time, another policy that was used was that the rate of interest was reduced. This went down from 6 to just 2%. And as we know, if you lower interest rates, this causes consumption to go up and investment to go up. That's the most likely thing. It depends on some other things. One of them really significant is the consumer confidence and business confidence. But this was quite a sharp decrease in the interest rate, and it caused these to go up. So we know that if exports were higher, consumption was higher, investment was higher, this caused aggregate demand actually to go up. So this was having the opposite effect to the fiscal policy. And it's thought that this actually sparked a recovery. And this is what led the UK out of the Great Depression and the recession that it had caused. And interestingly as well, as with the US, it's also considered significant that World War II started in 1939. And there will have been significant government spending on this, which would have likely also helped the UK economy exit the recession.